Give me an idea of how like companies are benefiting from this kind of thing because of course I'm aware of companies with giant campuses. I've gone to visit customer. Google was a customer of ours back in the day. Facebook was. So I've been to those campuses. I've been in towers in New York where, largely most of the floors are owned by. So give us an idea of how these businesses are leveraging this data. You kind of hinted at it a little bit, but I'd love to hear like what problems they're solving with it because that's where ultimately clearly you're solving some problems because the company looks to be growing, got, a couple hundred employees, seems to be solving some serious problems. So I'd love to hear how this data is like applied directly to these companies.
It started out with security applications, right? So people
Mm.
wanted to know where employees and visitors were. We have a lot of government customers that needed to also know where devices were, right? Because if you
Ah.
think about it, we all bring cell phones or other devices into buildings with us all the time. And some of these devices can be hijacked and networked in these spaces. And so it started out with security in a lot of these spaces to make sure that they knew where people and devices were. And if you're a visitor, like you may not be allowed in certain areas, or you can't bring devices, right? If you ever walked into a government building and they take away your cell phone, right? And not with any malicious intent, but it happens, right? And so that causes real threat. I mean, it was amazing to me to hear from one of our government customers that said, hey, you guys are not only just physically protecting our building here, but you're impacting, soldiers halfway around the world, right? Because there's sensitive information in our systems, in our network. And when devices come in and you help us detect them, we need to make sure that those devices aren't somehow inadvertently hacking or giving access to these systems that have sensitive classified data, right? So we help solve those types of problems to more simplistic things like how a particular room, how often is it being utilized? And COVID, the silver lining in what kind of happened over the last couple of years for us was help people understand the value of indoor intelligence, right? Because now they're thinking, okay, how is my space being utilized? I'm not bringing all my employees back to work. Which areas are being used? How can I change those areas to make them more functional going forward, right? We may never bring our workforce back to the office 100%. So do I need all this space? So space utilization, right? Not only in terms of understanding how much square footage do I really need to keep anymore, or how can I repurpose that square footage, right? And do I make it more collaborative space and do away with the individual desks or conference rooms, et cetera, right? What do I need? There's a lot of space utilization data that they can understand as they see what's happening over a period of time and how the spaces are being utilized. Another security example is school safety or even campus safety with these corporations, right? Fortunately, we have a gun problem in this country, and you have rogue people that can come onto a campus or a site. If you're managing and detecting people in these buildings, in these spaces, you can see where known devices or people that are registered are, and then where maybe someone that walks in, because these people always have, the bad guys always have a cell phone on them. You can see and detect cell phone and then see, where they are versus where your employees or students or whoever may be. And so being able to detect that and being able to send that data to, law enforcement to be able to act appropriately. So things like that, right? So a lot of our customers use it for a variety of applications.
You hit on a lot of examples and it's true. There's a big, massive change now in the workforce and how we're going to use space going forward. You hinted at your customers are already implementing this. I personally am in the belief that hybrid is at minimum hybrid is here. Like it's not going to go away. I don't think hybrid's going to go away. Whether we go full office, I don't think that's likely either. You know what I mean? Like 100% of one thing. It's probably not. It's probably going to be a blend. And we've actually had CIOs on our show talk about how they're going to try to potentially reconfigure their companies to optimize for this new work style, work habit, whatever you want to call it. What are some of the things you are seeing coming to light from the data? Because I feel like there's an epiphany, right? So, like, I'll use an example, but and let you answer just in a moment. My wife works for a big tech company here in North Carolina. They have a big campus. She goes there and she says, like, it's not really that full. Like, there's clearly not everyone's returned to work. I said, what does full mean? Like, what percentage? She says she doesn't even know because she doesn't really know how many people are employed, were coming there prior to, work from home. So give us an idea of like what the data is potentially uncovering. The only other way to find this data is to like, I guess, survey it. Like you're gonna be there physically and count people. That doesn't seem efficient. So give us an idea of what's being uncovered.
I mean, we're working with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and it's still early days in this, right? And it varies a little bit by industry, right? Some industries are making a harder push for employees to come back, and others are not pushing at all. Tech is very different than sometimes in the financial services sector, for example, right? But what we're seeing is it's early days. The percentage of employees coming back is still fairly small, and so what we're hearing from customers is, okay, how do I repurpose that? What I'm seeing is more collaborative spaces is what people are focused on. That's where you need to come back, right? People want to be able to have some space to bring people together. Even in my own company, we see the value in getting together from time to time, right? It helps you maintain the culture. It helps you maintain connectivity, right? There's a lot more nuance to interactions in person than maybe on a Zoom call, right? With one person or hundreds of people, right? And so I think there's definitely going to be a need to gather together in person. What we're seeing is a shift to how do we take those spaces and make them more collaborative, or make them for group settings, or create activities around them. So I think you're right. I don't think it's going to be 100% either way, remote or fully back in the office. I think it's always going to be hybrid, except for certain places, right, in manufacturing or healthcare, where you have to physically be there to do your job. In the areas where you don't have to physically be there, I think it's going to be a mix. I think that is going to continue to evolve over the next year or two as we come out of this pandemic phase, and people are, have more data to say, okay, maybe we don't need all of the space we have, but the space that we do have is going to be a higher percentage of collaboration space, right? And what we're also finding, there's a new feature that we added, is kind of being able to see where your peers or your friends are at work and which desks or conference rooms they've booked, so you can, if there's somebody you want to meet or you want to hang out with, or what days they're coming in, as long as they share that information with you and you share it with them, you guys can find spaces to work together, right? Or near each other, so that you can, at least when you're back in the office, see the people you want to see. Or maybe you need to see your manager, right? Or maybe you want to engage with the exec team more. So you can have that type of functionality in these things too. And so those are the types of requests we're getting from customers that we're adding into our product, to give them the ability to kind of collaborate, meet with the folks that they need to, and then leverage the time that they have together in the space.
When I'm hearing you say this, the one thing I keep thinking about is like, I wonder what people say when they hear this pitch and they learn about Inpixon. Because I feel like if I was to play devil's advocate, I would come back to you and say, well, why can't I just do that based on my hunch? Why can't I do that based on informal survey data? What do you say to people who think that that can be done just based on, like, well, there's less people here, so I'll turn it into a conference. I'll add conference room. I just read about that in Fortune magazine. I don't need it. I don't need data to do that. How do you overcome the naysayers who say, like, you don't need to measure that?
It's not just about that measurement or that data, right? It's a combination of things that we're delivering through this. The location and spatialization data is just one piece of what we're offering. The biggest challenge companies have right now is keeping employees, right? Employee retention is so critical. We've just talked about all the great resignation these past few months, right? And the job market is still strong despite some of the economic challenges. It's costly to lose an employee and then try to replace them. So companies have to think about, how do I bring employees back, make them feel safe when they come back to my space in terms of COVID or anything else, make that experience better when they come back. What we've done is taken our location data, the maps, the ability to book a desk, et cetera. We've put it all into an app to really focus on the workplace experience. And that's the key, right? So if you want to bring employees back, even part-time, then you need to create an environment and an experience that's appealing, because otherwise they're going to go somewhere else, or they're going to find something that's 100% remote or whatever it may be. And so that's what we're finding is customers are really focused on that employee experience. And so what we've done is we've integrated with 75 plus other partners that you would expect in the workplace. So whether it's your Zooms or your G Suite or your Office 365 or Slack or help desk tools, et cetera, all of that gets access through our app, which has all the other functionality that Inpixon provides. And now that becomes your gateway to all the services that your employee needs, whether they're in the office or at home remotely. So there's a lot of conversations also about how do you create equity, right, among employees that are working at home and being in the office, and making sure that you're treating them well. Now you create this employee experience. They've got everything accessible through one app. They don't have to log into multiple things. It allows you to kind of control the culture and defend your culture, maintain your culture. It allows you to shape that employee experience, whether they're at home or in the office. Your all-hand calls, your weekly meetings, all of that can be managed through this one thing. So it's not just about the data, it's about the whole employee experience.
Now I fully understand. Now I understand this because that problem I understand. I used to work as a consultant for an agency called 360i. 360i has, thousands of employees, multiple floors. We had no Inpixon. No, we didn't have that. Uh, but facility resources were at a premium. It was always very difficult to tell which places were booked, where photo shoots were occurring, where film shoots were occurring. Like you'd try to bring a guest here and all of a sudden you're not allowed to even walk through the hallway. So like some type of mapping tool to tell me how I'm supposed to get there would be great. Has some type of resource allocator to know that this room is available, that it has the AV tools I need versus maybe another room might have more of the creative tools I need. Whatever the case may be, that agency had not every room was equipped the same. And that's, I guess, another selling point for you is like you don't have to equip each room the same. You can equip rooms based on demand, but what you do is you make it easier for people to find what they need. Then you won't have to equip all the rooms to like full capacity each and every room so that anyone by chance alone could just use it. I can start to see that because I can see the frustration of people that are, let's say, returning to work, like you said, and they don't have access to the resource that they need. It just adds to the frustration. Like, why am I here? I can't even do what it is I'm supposed to do. Like now I'm frustrated.
We're dealing with customers that are Global 3000, right? So they have millions of square feet of office. And you're coming back to, or every time you book something, it might be in a different space, right? So again, you don't know what amenities are there in that conference room or, how to get there or else is next to it. It's just making that experience better. I know what I'm getting. I know where it is. I know how to get there. And the people that I'm meeting are able to get there as well.
Hey, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to us by Salesforce Platform. Visit salesforce.com/newsletter to discover timely insights and useful tips tailored to your role. Subscribe to this channel and get more great IT and tech interviews with top industry leaders.